This is Edgy on Film. You are watching with Hollie May, singer, songwriter, dancer, artist, icon. You are watching Edgy on Film, episode 2, College and Friends. In 2009, 7 and 8, at the very beginning of secondary school, I was a lost soul, and also near the end of primary school, I was also a lost soul. I was very much solely a lost girl. Obviously, the bullying was incredibly tough for me because I have dealt with bullying and all that stuff for the majority of my lifetime. Now, I spent a lot of my time as a teenager in front of the PC, lost on MySpace, and listening to all kinds of music and discovering new artists and, really just discovering all kinds of people. So I kind of turned to MySpace, Tumblr, Last.fm, all the old school websites that were really popular back in the early noughties and, 2000s, before the internet became the internet. That was my spot, other than climbing up on trees and hanging out in the fish market in Northampton, the old art gallery, and also, shopping as you normally would, as any other teenage girl would. I got bullied so badly during primary school that one day I tried to just stay in the toilet and hide, for just hide away from everybody, because it was really brutal when I got bullied, and I felt so alone and so on my own when all I ever wanted was a friend. I gradually got older over the years and I started secondary school, and I really struggled to make friends, and I struggled to sort of be in any kind of group of friends. The majority of the time I was on my own, and I was facing all of this completely on my own, and it was horrible. And the only thing that I could turn to, other than my really, really closest friends who have been there for me for many, many years, I turned to music. I turned to MySpace. I was heavily hooked onto, editing the profile and freaking being really technical and into the whole media thing. And I guess in a way I kind of took my emotions out on that. And also, I guess I was really trying to find a way on how to express myself as a teenager, because I was battling so much when all I really wanted was just a group of my own friends, and I just wanted people to be cool with me. But the people who I knew, they were not my friends. Like, no one in primary school and nobody during my secondary school years were my friends. Like, it got to the point where the bullying got so bad during secondary school that this one time I tried to do a shot of nail varnish. I remember that. And I tried to attempt it twice. And then I think when I was in college, because my trichotillomania and my depression sort of progressed, it blossomed out of the blue. It just got really worse. I tried to, there's been many times in college where I've kind of kept it to myself, where obviously I've tried to commit suicide and, cut myself. And I'm not afraid to admit that I have self-harmed for many, many years. I still do it today. I still struggle with that. I don't need help, but I'm not alone, with self-harm and stuff, dealing with bullying and suffering with depression. I know I'm not the only person in the world that suffers with this. But like I said, as I got older, the whole depression got so bad that I just, I feel like as a child and growing up as a teenager who is facially disfigured, my vulnerability is how can I say this? I do become very vulnerable very easily, but I'm not a vulnerable person, if that makes sense. And now that I'm 26 years old, I'm definitely more in control about my vulnerability, and I'm definitely more aware of it. However, when I was a teenager, when I used to go to the fish market, I used to hang around with a lot of older people, and not all of these older people were my friends. And it was the same in college. It was the same. I was such an easy target for so many people to just take their like insecurities and their negative stuff out on. And obviously at the time, I just wanted to have friends, and I didn't really have friends because I knew that the majority of the people who I thought were my friends were not my friends because of the way that they were treating me and the fact that they were doing the same cycle, you know, the false friendship and treating me as a target instead of actually giving a fuck about me. I knew that I was very easy for people to get under their skin for and all that stuff. When I went to the fish market as a kid, like I must have been about early 13, coming up to maybe 15, I think, or yeah, 13 up to 17. I have made a few friends, but I wouldn't consider them my friends. So during the time when everybody was going through puberty during my teenage years, you know, everyone was calling each other slag this, slag that, and showing off their boyfriend. Unfortunately, what happened to me, I got myself in a shitty little muddle, and I experienced underage sex, which was not one of the most nicest experiences of my life. And it wasn't just one person, it was multiple different people. And I was going through that whilst everybody was just, you know, oh, this is my boyfriend. I've been with him for about 3 weeks. I love him to death. And then there's me. Oh, well, you know, screw me. I'm going through this shit. So this is kind of like the first time I've actually kind of opened up about, you know, having and going through underage sex and also dealing with bullying and being suicidal. And it sucks that, like, when I look back on old photos of myself as a child, like as a, you know, before teenager and near the end of like my childhood, it saddens me that I couldn't have, or I couldn't go through what everybody else was going through, because I went through so much of being on my own and going through underage sex. I did report it, you know, many times. I tried to send it to court with all the different fellas that were doing it to me. Luckily enough, there wasn't any imagery involved. But this went on for a long time, and I would say that it's ruined me. I still cry about the experiences I've had. It sucks. It fucking sucks, because I have to deal with that for the rest of my life. Yeah. Like, I hated school. I hated college. I didn't like the whole process of this person's cool, that person's cooler than that person. You know, you're not cool because you look like this and you're never going to get anywhere in life. There are two stories that I will openly say because I feel like I need to tell. I just need to tell. So during the time I studied drama, I got bullied so much in secondary school. This was probably back in 2009. And everybody was in their own little group. And this was during the time I got so close to getting an A star, possibly an A star or a C in drama, or just an A. And I remember my drama teacher, I came in late and he was like, Hollie, why are you late? And I think it was during nearer the time I experienced underage sex, and the bullying at that time was very stiff. and very rough, and I was all alone. And I just remember my drama teacher picking on me throughout the whole entire time, wherever I went into his class, late or not. And it got to the point where I went through so much shit that I just didn't turn up anymore. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go to school. And this is kind of like where it got to the point where my self-love, if you want to call it, I didn't do my hair and I didn't do my teeth. I felt ashamed and I felt very rough and incredibly ugly and disgusted with myself. And I guess at the start, like at school and, you know, as the years gone by, I continued to look rough and I didn't want to look after myself because of the negative experiences that I went through, because it was so damaging. And there is one story other than what I just told you. So basically, when I did my art GCSEs, I remember this story like it was yesterday. And I have been telling all kinds of people this story since I first got into the music scene. So basically, it was during the time I did my art GCSE, and I was late for my class, and I remember being sat on the table. Everybody in the art room was looking at me, judging on me, picking on me, talking shit about me. And so I was there in the corner preparing my everything all ready for, you know, the class, getting ready for the day. So I got my art pens out, my paint stuff, my oil paints, the water, pencils and pens, you know, your ruler and your rubber. I got it all set up on the table. And I remember the teacher, she was like, Hollie, I need to talk to you, you know, you're always late. And I just completely ignored the teacher at this point. So during the time I did my art GCSE, I got harassed for many years due to some sort of helper teacher. So this helper teacher comes into the class art room and she's like, Hollie, I need to talk to you. And I just completely ignore her, not giving a fuck. And then she asks me again. I ignore the fuck out of her. And then she asked me for the third time. So what do? I got myself up. I looked around the class, right? Feeling absolutely rough. My hair wasn't done. I didn't even do my teeth. And my hygiene was terrible. And it was awful. It was a really bad time, you know, during my GCSEs. And I basically picked up the mug of water that I used for my water paints that I was so ready for my GCSE for doing the class, that I ended up throwing the mug of water, and I just left all my stuff in the art room until I ran around the whole entire school, escaping from the helper teacher. And, you know, that is the only last story I can actually remember from my secondary school years and, you know, dealing with bullying. And this is the only story that I can just sort of take me back there, really. And all I wanted to do was just express myself, make friends, and freaking get on with the education, even though I absolutely fucking hated it, because nobody at my school truly gave a shit about me. No matter how many times I wanted to make friends, no matter how many times I wanted to try and fit in, or how many times I wanted to just be there for somebody, there was always somebody who was willing to either beat me up, punch me, or, you know, put my head down the toilet. I mean, that's happened to me many times, especially a lot during primary school years too. And also college, that happened a lot to me, and that was horrible. All I ever wanted was just a friend, and I didn't have that. I didn't have that at all, and it fucking sucks. Yeah. So instead, I decided to pick up the camera and focus on my art. And I just decided to express myself, to deal with all this horrible hatred, all this negativity, and all of this shit that I really didn't want to deal with as a teenager and also as a young child during primary school years. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to see people. It got to the point where my depression was so bad that I just sort of decided to pick up a camera, express myself, you know, not even thinking straight. And I guess in a way, I would go on MySpace as a young kid and I would listen to so many different songs. And then as I got older, I just decided to express myself in front of the camera and then also mix and match it with artwork and, you know, act like I'm selling myself or I'm selling the piece that I've done, whether it's me modeling or it's a self-portrait of what I've done of myself. And, you know, that was a really scary time in my life because at the beginning of doing this photography stuff, I was still dealing with, you know, the underage sex stuff from near the end of primary school, starting secondary school, and throughout secondary school, near the very beginning of secondary school. I was still dealing with that. But also at the same time, it repeated itself when I was in secondary school. And also, you know, at the very beginning of college, I was attracting the most disgustingest kind of men, you know, you'd ever fucking meet. And it was just such a bad time in my life. And I think the only thing that got me through this time was music. It was waking up every day and coming back home from school, from a shit day at school, logging into MySpace and just listening to music. That was the one thing that got me through all of this shit, all of these fake friends, all of these horrible people who I thought were my friends as a teenager and a young child. Music was the one thing that grabbed my brain and my freaking heart and my soul, and it freaking woke me up and made me realise that you're better than this and you're going to get out of it even though it's fucking shit. So, I mean, I just chose to express myself. I have all of these like photos from when I did photography and all that stuff. But it was such a scary time in my life because I was so alone and I was so on my own. And I did used to go counselling a little bit as a teenager, but I didn't like it because the person who used to, you know, talk to me, it was really uncomfortable and a bit kind of like forced. So, you know, nowadays, I do have a therapist that I do talk to. However, I don't know, I haven't done it in a while. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I'm too busy getting on with my own stuff and what I'm doing right now. But, you know, this was such a bad time in my life. And, you know, if you are facially disfigured and you're dealing with bullying and you're suffering and you're suicidal, just keep close to the people who are close to you and don't give in to the people that just want to see you 6 feet below because they feel like shit and, you know, they just want to make you feel like shit because of the way you fucking look. It's not cool. It's not acceptable. And I hate bullying and I've dealt with it online and offline all throughout my life. And I remember also during the time when I did join MySpace, I used to know a group of freaking young teenage lesbians at the time who would take a picture of my face and then they would crop it and make a joke out of it. I think I named and shamed her a couple of years ago, and she goes to university now. I think she's like sort of studying, I don't know, lecture or something, or maybe something to do with media, I think. So, you know, I went through that and obviously it's just horrible. I wish I could have sent it to the police, but unfortunately I didn't. So if anybody is watching this and you're a young teenager, you're a young girl, or you're a young boy, facially disfigured, maybe you stand out, maybe you have autism or a disability, whatever the hell makes you different. If you're going through bullying, please frickin' report it whilst you're in the moment of going through it, because I didn't do that And I regret some of it because I didn't, I didn't report it at that time. I did a few times, but I didn't do it enough. So don't give in with whatever you're facing, and make sure that you are surrounded by your family and your frickin' friends, because the best thing to do is to make yourself win instead of allowing the bully to win. We all know that bullies and people who pick on each other because they're full of shit and people who are most insecure, they do not have the best of lives and they are not the best of people. So take it from me, put yourself first, and if it still happens every day, you need to either remove yourself from that situation, report it, open up to your friends and your family about it, and don't let it defeat you. Don't let it win against you. Like, the bullying I have went through is just horrible. People used to bully me because of my disfigurement so much that I would cut myself in public toilets and I would become so quiet that I would not speak throughout the whole entire day during college or school. Even when I came home, even if I was at a family dinner with my parents and all that stuff, I became so quiet. But when I look back on it, I wish that I could have just turned the clock and opened up to people who were close to me. And I was on my own. And when you're a teenager and you're on your own and you're very lost and you don't feel like you have nobody and the only thing that you have is music that keeps you going, the whole process is a very tough thing to go through. And, especially if you're facially disfigured or if you stand out from the crowd and it's very blatantly obvious, it is tough. And to wake up every day going to school or college and people are just continuously picking at you, and even if they use your appearance or a part of your body as a joke, like let's say if you've lost an arm, or if you don't have an ear or a nose, or you're in a wheelchair, or maybe your disability is completely different from all of those and it's invisible, it's freaking tough every day to deal with that. And not just to deal with the bullying on the side of it, but to deal with it every day. That's a completely different story. But I'm here to let you know that you are not on your own. And if you feel the need to express yourself because your day has been so tough because of the depression and the emotions, and, you don't have anybody to talk to, you can always send me a message on any social media platform and I'll listen to you. I remember when I was at school at some point and my mum turned around to me and she was like, "Oh, Holly, do you want a friend who looks the same as you? Because obviously you're disfigured." And I remember saying to my mum, "Well, if it happens, it happens, but I don't think it will happen anytime soon." And I think that says enough, really, if I'm truthfully honest. So yeah, don't let the bullies win. And please express yourself if you have to, because that's what I did. And as cringy as the photos and the art pieces are, I'm fucking glad I did that, because that was my output. People used to love my artwork. People used to love my photography. I used to act like I was selling it when actually I wasn't. I was just trying to be myself in a certain image and pose a certain way, when in the reality behind the image, I was going through so much shit, when all I actually ever fucking needed was a real friend to be by my side, just to let me know that I'm going to be okay. The silence is fucking real, but also the people that are by your side, they are so important, and you have to stay aware and open-minded to who actually gives a fuck about you and who is actually there for you, because that is what matters the most. So in a way, I just would love to be treated just how somebody would treat any normal person. And just because I'm facially disfigured and I stand out from the crowd with my appearance doesn't mean that that makes me less worthy of a person or, you know, not as important as everybody else. And I feel like we as people, we should normalize the disability, our own disability. We should normalize our own disfigurement that makes us stand out, that makes us who we are. Even if you're in a wheelchair or you have a different kind of disability, or maybe you have something different about your appearance or your body that makes you stand out. And people need to stop treating us like it's okay to like bully and make a joke out on our difference. Because I know people have been doing this for years, but that is really sickening and it needs to stop. And also taking the mick out of somebody because of their difference. And also, last but not least, treating them like they are just not important. We are all human beings. We are all different. Our backgrounds and our stories makes us who we are. But if we're disfigured and we have something on our face or our body that stands out, it doesn't make us less of a person.